Sexual harassment is just as common today for women in the workplace as it was 5 years ago.
Harassment is still widespread right now in corporate America at the same rate as men, something one expert tells us if
continue to move into those roles, you are more likely.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Adil Azim bin Muhammad Azizur Rahman. My matrix number is 2024771521. Our group will be presenting about the sexual harassment issue. So here I am, would like to talk about the introduction of the issue. As you want to know that there are 257 men have reported experiencing sexual harassment at work and also highlighting a serious issue that affect many people. Sexual harassment isn't just a number, but it's a significant personal and professional problem. Next, I want to tell about the definition of the sexual harassment. Sexual harassment involves unwelcome advance or conduct that create a hostile work environment from inappropriate comments to unwanted physical contact. It's essential to address this to prevent emotional harm and workplace disruption. So, this video we make will explore the experience of the 257 men and also highlighting the often overlooked issue of male harassment and its prevalence. Next, I will pass to the next presenter.
Types of sexual harassment. First, quid pro quo harassment. This occurs when employment decisions, such as hiring, promotions, or continued employment, are based on submission to sexual advance or other forms of sexual conduct. For example, a supervisor offering a promotion in exchange for sexual favors or threatening to fire someone if they refuse. Second, hostile work environment. This form of harassment involves unwelcome sexual conduct that creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive working environment. The behavior does not need to be linked to employment decisions, but is pervasive or severe enough to affect an employee's work experience. For example, repeated sexual jokes, comments, innuendos, or inappropriate touching. Number 3, verbal harassment. This includes offensive or sexual explicit comments, jokes, or remarks about a person's appearance, body, or sexual activities. For example, making sexual jokes or repeatedly asking a co-worker about their romantic life. Number 4, non-verbal harassment. This involves suggestive gesture, facial experience, or displaying inappropriate image, such as pornographic material, in a workplace. For example, staring inappropriately at someone or leaving sexual explicit image on their desk. Number 5, and the last one, physical harassment. This includes any unwanted physical contact, such as touching, hugging, kissing, or brushing up against someone in a sexual way. For example, groping, petting, or any other unwelcome physical behavior. Example cases sexual harassment in Malaysia. First, Beatrice Fernandez vs. Sistem Penerbangan Malaysia et al. 2005. In this case, Beatrice Fernandez, a flight stewardess with Malaysia Airlines (MAS), was allegedly harassed by a male superior. After rejecting his advances, she claimed she faced discrimination and retaliation. She filed a case citing wrongful dismissal and sexual harassment. For the impact, this case helped bring attention to the lack of protection for workers, particularly women, against sexual harassment and wrongful dismissal. However, Fernandez lost the case due to procedural issues, sparking calls for stronger legal frameworks to protect victims of harassment in the workplace. Number 2, Kavita Krishnan vs. Cosmic Insurance 2020. In this case, Kavita Krishnan, an employee of Cosmic Insurance, accused a senior colleague of making repeated inappropriate comments and advances. She alleged that the company's management failed to act despite her complaints. Kavita filed a complaint under the Industrial Relations Act. For the impact, the case received widespread attention, highlighting how employers can be negligent in addressing sexual harassment complaints. The company eventually reached a settlement, and the case contributed to public pressure for clearer workplace harassment policies. The last example cases, the number 3, sexual harassment at a Penang factory 2021. In this case, a factory worker in Penang accused her supervisor of sexual harassing her by making lewd comments and inappropriate physical contact. After she reported the matter to HR, the company allegedly took minimal action, and she faced retaliation in the form of reduced work hours and isolation. For the impact, this case was one of many that emphasized the challenges women, particularly in lower paying jobs, face when reporting sexual harassment. Advocacy groups in Malaysia used the case to push for stronger workplace protection and laws around sexual harassment reporting mechanism.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Imran. I will present why sexual harassment happens. There are three reasons. The biggest reason is power imbalance in the workplace. This happens when the aggressor, usually the boss or the male colleague, has more power than the victim. So the victim is usually worried or scared that their complaints will cause them to face the consequences such as demotion or even a forced resignation. And then the second reason is because of the sexist attitude of the male colleagues itself. The male colleagues sometimes they have a negative mindset that they think that females are weak, females complaints will not get much attention, so they think that they can do anything towards the female workers. Next, the third reason is the sexually provocative dresses worn by the female colleagues. Sometimes the dresses are can be quite turn on to the male workers in the workplace, but this is the smallest reason. There are three impacts on the victim. The first impact is psychological trauma, anxiety, nervousness, sadness, depression, and even loss of self-esteem. She will have a hard time on her life from now on, which brings us to the second impact, which is decreased productivity at work. She will be missing many meetings, many deadlines, many calls, and even she can't even do her work properly, which brings us to the third impact, career damage. This is very personally impacting to her because she will not be getting promoted anytime soon. In fact, she might even get fired for her very low productivity at work. There are three impacts to the organization. The first impact is the interpersonal relationships between colleagues decline. Female workers will start to get less comfortable, less friendly towards their male colleagues. Even the male colleagues will or not be as friendly to the female workers because they are scared of getting complaints, which will cause the teamwork, the synergy, the cooperation in the organization to suffer. Which brings us to the second impact, the departure of competent workers. Workers will not enjoy the environment as much. They will not feel happy. They will feel this is not a good environment, so they will leave the organization. Actually, this poses a very negative impact on the organization because when this happens, it brings us to the third impact. The overall productivity of the organization suffers. The organization will have a worse business. They will have worse operation, which makes their revenue to go down, which ultimately make their net profit to go down. And thus, when net profit goes down, everyone in the organization will be affected.
Sexual harassment at workplace has become normalization in our country. It is because not many people don't know how to prevent sexual harassment. Here are some ways to prevent sexual harassment at workplace. First of all, develop and enforce a clear policy. Zero tolerance policy. Create a clear written policy that defines sexual harassment, states that will not be tolerated, and ensure that all employees can easily access and understand the policy. It should be included in employee handbooks, onboarding materials, and available online. Clearly outline on how employee can report harassment, including multiple reporting channels. As example, HR supervisors, and anyone. Conduct regular training and education. Conduct regular training and session for all employees, including management, to educate them about what constitutes sexual harassment, how to report it, and the consequences. Train employees on how to intervene safely and supportively when witnessing harassment. Managers and supervisors should receive initial training on how to handle complaints, conduct investigation, and maintain a harassment-free environment. Create a self-reporting environment. Ensure that reports of harassment are handled confidentially and that the privacy of all parties involved is respected, and establish a no-retaliation policy to protect those who report harassment or participate in investigation from any form of backlash. Other than that, the employee also need to review policies and procedures. The employers regularly review and update harassment policies to reflect change in law and best practice. Collect feedback from employees about the effectiveness of current measures and make improvement when necessary. Implementing these steps creates a safer and more respectful environment, significantly reduce the likelihood of sexual harassment incident. Moreover, there are also some law and action in our country to prevent sexual harassment at workplace. As example, number 1, the Employment Act 1955, amended in 2012 and updated in 2032, includes specific provision against sexual harassment in the workplace. It defines sexual harassment and mandates employers to take action on complaints. What are employers' duty in this? Employers are legally required to investigate complaints of sexual harassment and take appropriate disciplinary action when the complaint is substantiated. Failure to comply can result in the penalties and fines. and the law mandates the employer establish procedures for dealing with complaints, including investigation and disciplinary measures. Next, Anti-Sexual Harassment Act 2022. New legislation, the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act 2022, passed in Parliament, specifically addressed sexual harassment across all sectors, including the workplace. Tribunal for Sexual Harassment. As an example, the Act established a dedicated tribunal to handle sexual harassment complaints, providing victims with an accessible and less intimidating venue to seek justice compared to the traditional court system. The Act applies not only to employees, but also to customers, clients, and anyone who interacts within an organization, ensuring comprehensive protection. Next, Code of Practice on the Prevention and Eradication of Sexual Harassment. In Malaysia, the Malaysian government has introduced a Code of Practice on the Prevention and Eradication of Sexual Harassment in the workplace, providing guidelines for employers on preventing and addressing sexual harassment. Employees are encouraged to adopt these guidelines, which outline steps for creating policies, conducting trainings, and establish reporting mechanisms.
I'd like to move to the last part, which is the conclusion of the issue. The conclusion is sexual harassment is a serious issue in workplace, affecting many, including these 257 men who have reported such incidents. This behavior causes emotional distress and disrupt careers, while also impacting organizational morale and productivity. To combat harassment, it is vital to enforce clear policies, provide clear training, and foster a respectful work environment. Promoting awareness and proactive prevention is the key to creating a safer, more inclusive workplace for everyone.